How the Thrawn Stole Life Day. Every Boo on the Boo crew liked Life Day a lot, but the Thrawn who was after the Boo crew did not. The Thrawn hated Life Day, the whole Life Day season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his uniform didn't fit right. It could be, perhaps, that his boots were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Life Day Eve, hating the booze, looking down on the ghost with a sour, Thrawny glare, at the warm lighted portholes on their orbit there. For he knew every Boo on the Boo crew beneath was busy now hanging a Tree of Life wreath. "And they're hanging their blasters," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Life Day. It's practically here." Then he growled with his chiss fingers nervously drumming, "I must find some way to stop Life Day from coming." For tomorrow, he knew, all the Boo girls and boys would wake bright and early, and they'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise. Then the Boos, young and old, would sit down for a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Kashyyyk pie and rare Kashyyyk beast, which was something the Thrawn couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Boo on the Boo crew, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Life Day bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Boos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Thrawn thought of this Boo Life Day sing, the more the Thrawn thought, "I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 43 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Life Day from coming. But how?" Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Thrawn got a wonderful, awful idea. "I know just what to do," the Thrawn laughed with a choke, and he made a quick, Sidious hood and a cloak. And he chuckled and clucked, "What a great Thrawny kid. With this cloak and this hood, I look just like Darth Sid. All I need is a Sith Lord." The Thrawn looked around, but since Sith Lords are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Thrawn? No! The Thrawn simply said, "If I can't find a Sith Lord, I'll make one instead." So he called his droid Deet. Then he took some black thread, and he tied a red saber to his hand instead. Then he loaded some bags, and something he could eat, on an Imperial skiff, and he hitched up old Deet. Then the Thrawn said, "Let's go," and started on their trip. Toward the orbit the Boos lay a snooze on their ship. All their portholes were dark. Quiet snores filled the air. All the Boos were all dreaming, sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little bunk on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Thrawny Sid hissed, as he climbed through the hatch, empty bags in his fist. Then he thought, this is a lot of work before dawn. But if Darth Sid could do it, then so could the Thrawn. He almost got caught for a moment or two, but Chopper didn't much care for the rest of the crew. Where the little Boo blasters all hung in a row, "These blasters," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Droid legs and comm devices, hover packs, vests, flight goggles, spray paint cans, Zeb's gift, and the rest. And he stuffed them in bags, and then Thrawn with a yank stuffed all the bags one by one up the gangplank. Then he slunk to the conservator. He took the Boo's feast. He took the Kashyyyk pie. He took the Kashyyyk beast. He cleaned out that conservator as quick as a flash. Why, the Thrawn even took their last can of Kashyyyk hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the gangplank with vigor. "And now," grinned the Thrawn, "I will grab the lightsabers." And the Thrawn grabbed the saber, and he went to go above, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Boo, little Ezra B. Boo, who was part of the crew. The Thrawn had been caught by this little Boo pauper, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. He stared at the Thrawn and said, "Sidious, why? Why are you taking my lightsaber? Why?" But you know, that old Thrawn was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Sidious lied, "there's a light on this lightsaber that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted his head, and he got him a drink, and he sent him to bed. And when Ezra B. Boo went to bed with his cup, he went to the gangplank and threw the saber up. The last thing he took was the coil for their heat. Then he went up the gangplank, his robbing complete. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that he left in the bunk was a crumb that was even too small for a skunk. Then he did the same thing to the other Boo's bunks, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Boo's skunks. It was 15:15 dawn, all the Boos still abed, all the Boos still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 miles up in the orbit of Lothal, he went to the trash compactor to compact it all. "Pooh-pooh to the Boos," he was Thrawnishly humming. "They're finding out now that no life day is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Boos on the Boo crew will all cry boo-hoo. That's a noise," grinned the Thrawn, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Thrawn put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the comms. It started out calm, then loud like a bomb. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared at the Boo crew. The Thrawn popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Boo on the Boo crew, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Life Day from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Thrawn, with his Thrawn feet ice cold on the steel, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could this be real? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Thrawn thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Life Day, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Life Day, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, the Boo crew, they say, that the Thrawn's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, Thrawn carved the Kashyyyk beast.